Good evening, KL. Good evening, JB, and thank you very much for staying with us right here on 812 Live, Bernama Radio 24. As per usual, we'll bring back the lounge. Of course, it was a lazy week simply because everyone took a little bit of a break for the ongoing Eid al-Fitr celebration. But having said that, we're back on high gear. And speaking of high gear, we have a fantastic guitarist in the studios. Of course, I have a whole list of things he's done, but we're not going to be talking about that because a lot of people within the city already know him. He's made a name for himself, and I remember interviewing him the last time when I was 34 years old. I'm now 42. How time flies. Az Samad, welcome to the studios, and thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me here.
Well, the last time I spoke to you was when you just came back from Berkeley, and we're all very happy for you. You were one of the first few of, I must say, our generation to go to Berkeley and come back with some decent results. Well, how has it been since then?
It's been really great. Since I went to Berkeley, when I met you, I probably just finished a semester or two. After that, when I graduated, I was actually teaching in Berkeley for the summer guitar sessions. So I got that experience, and then I moved to California.
Right.
Where I lived. I lived in Berkeley, California, for not from Berkeley to another Berkeley, for about 4 years. Did my masters, performed, toured there, and last year in about June, I moved back to Kuala Lumpur.
Right. What made you want to come back when things were going so well? You were teaching all over the place, more so in one of the most what do you call that? Most highly regarded music school in the world.
Yeah. Well, I was teaching for the summer sessions. Means it was a 1 week summer program.
It's a summer program.
It was a summer program that I was teaching, but I really liked California a lot, and I was doing a lot of interesting music. But it was just about time to come back. And since the first show I did when I came back was I played as a guest for Reza Saleh at his Malaysian Philharmonic Orchestra show. And since then, I've played with the Malaysian Philharmonic Orchestra as part of the orchestra a number of times. And it's been really interesting. It's been a great opportunity to do my own music a lot, which is why I'm looking forward to the show this Monday at No Black Tie, where I'm doing a solo.
But listening to your music, it's a very niche what do you call it, market or a niche group of people that you would play your music for, or a lot of niche group of people that like your kind of music. So with the lull in the music scene right now, how do you find gigs, and how are you surviving musically?
Interestingly enough, I'm probably playing the most. I'm playing the most gigs playing original music nowadays since I've been back here, and it's probably with some different kinds of variety, because I have my trio, which is a jazz trio. It's with classical guitar, nylon string guitar, percussion and bass, with Kevin Tessera on bass and Zalila Lee on percussion, and that's one kind of music that I play. And then I'm also playing my solo guitar stuff, which is, I would say, about 90% original music. And some people have found out about my music via the other shows that I've done, and some people have heard it in the films, like recent films, like my music was in Relationship Status, a Khairil Baha film recently released in January this year, and just different things around the city. I've been very lucky. I've been getting a lot of gigs, and besides performing, I'm also a music educator. So I have about 20 plus students right now.
Right. So you teach privately.
I teach privately right now.
Will you one day end up teaching in the Academy Sini?
Perhaps like one of the institutions. I've been approached to teach at different institutions.
Right.
But at the moment, I'm teaching privately. So I have that is an interesting use of my time. I mean, I meet a lot of interesting students. I have people who are like professional graphic designers, lawyers. I have a lot of lawyers, law students, people from diverse backgrounds. English teachers at international schools. So and teaching just different things. I have a lot of beginner students, and some jazz guitar students. and that's really interesting, just meeting all these people.
Right, with the jazz scene, and if you look at the jazz scene, there's just a whole smorgasbord of jazz festivals coming up. We've got the KL International Jazz Festival. It just ended with a lot of international artists. With
they had Hiromi on that.
Yeah, Hiromi with Ahmad Jamal. And there is the Borneo Jazz Festival and also Penang Jazz Festival. Are you people included in that, or are you people even called to people make inquiries about you performing at the
I my duo with Zal Zalil Ali, so the Az Samad duo, we did about I think 5 performances at the Penang Jazz Festival last year in December. So
courtesy of Paul Augustine.
The good man himself. So I performed one show where I shared the stage with Liana Fizi and Bijou, and then other fringe performances. So I think it's an interesting situation to be in, because as a main act, you have that 1 hour feature slot performance, if you're like the international act. But when you're playing on the fringe stages, you get multiple performances. So I think I met a lot of people who saw me on maybe repeated performances or like got a chance to listen to my music different times.
And what's interesting is, we had a string of people who's been to Berkeley. We had Rendra a couple of months ago. Before that, we had Monologue. And, a lot of them say, or the both of them said that, Berkeley and America changed their lives. Did it do the same for you? And how did it change your life?
Berkeley was an amazing experience just because of one of the biggest things is probably the very diverse student community. So I have when I went to Berkeley, I made friends some friends from UK. I have a very good friend, Dylan Kay, who was teaching after graduating. He taught at Guitar Institute in London, and now he's living in Auckland in New Zealand. And I've visited him a few times where I stayed at his place. We played some music, and I have another friend, Magnus Lindström in Sweden, who's a jazz guitarist. And all these connections, all these different friends from different parts of the world. That's probably like the biggest thing for me, because now, they know that if they come to Malaysia, they have a place to stay, and we can probably play a gig or like do some recordings and stuff. Just that network of amazing musicians. In terms of the classes, it was great because it is truly just a music school. So you could take something like as niche as Brazilian Guitar Lab and then how to play bossa nova for a semester. So that was a great experience, just really going inside all these different kinds of music that I really like.
And it's of course done a lot to help with your songwriting and or writing music. But having said that, when I first interviewed you, you spoke a lot about this guy called Eric Roach, one of your teachers, one of your mentors. Speaking of mentors, did you meet other mentors after that? People who brought down a lot of knowledge towards your guitar playing.
Absolutely, I've met a lot of really great mentors. One for fingerstyle guitar, I met Alex DeGrassi, who is the same generation as Michael Hedges, the Windham Hill label. So it's like meeting the person who was in the era that started the kind of music I played. I took a weekend workshop with him, and later on, when he visited Hong Kong, he was in Hong Kong, then I met up with him and took a lesson there, went for his concert there, and we kept in touch. Another guy, Thomas Leap, who was a student of Eric Roche. He was in Singapore recently, and we met up there as well. It's interesting because all these people that are my mentors that I met in the US, they seem to be in Asia on tours, and so I've managed to keep in touch in person and as well as online.
Right, we've got another about 25 minutes to go. A lot of talk coming your way, but in the meantime, let's talk about your solo guitar retrospective happening at Evelyn's Place, No Black Tie. That's happening on the 27th of August 2012. It starts at 9:30. Tickets are pretty cheap at 30 ringgit, and they said that there's a lot of different stuff you're doing. Did you specifically tailor make this show for No Black Tie?
Actually it is tailor-made. So I've when you met me at that time, I had my first album, Acoustic Gestures, from 2004, and since then I've released a number of different recordings. Most of the recordings are influenced from my time in Berkeley because they're still fingerstyle guitar,
Right.
but most of it is improvised solo fingerstyle guitar. So my album, I recorded one EP in Berkeley, was called Snow and Ice, and later on when I was in California, I recorded one called Emo Attack Turtle, and then another one called Love Letters, and the most recent recording that I did is called the Amsterdam Recordings, when I was on tour in Europe. So I just came back from Europe, and I had a few days off, and me and the band, Taralinda, the name of the band is Taralinda and the Tortilla Western Trio, and we were on tour in Europe. So we had a few days off in Amsterdam, and I recorded this new record. So that's one. So there's a lot of music that I've recorded. But for the retrospective, there's also a lot of other music that I haven't recorded, or I've recorded but I haven't released yet. So there's music that I've written here that didn't make the first album. You know, I have a song called Tupai Yang Chomel,
Right.
which when I went to the Rainforest Music Festival, I saw this folk trio, and they played sort of music that was influenced by Irish music and such, and I think it was a Canadian band. So I wrote a song trying to copy the style of music that they played, and it's called Tupai Yang Chomel. You know,
Right. Tupai and Chomel. Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to find out more about your music and your upcoming show. Don't forget to support great music in Malaysia. We've got a lot of fantastic musicians. I remember a time when we used to complain and say, no, Malaysia doesn't have any music. There's a lot of pop stuff, too much fluff. Well, you've got great musicians now. No excuse. We need to go support our musicians. We're going to come back with more from Az Samad right here on 812 Live, and I take that you're going to play live for us today. Thank you very much. Well, stay with us. We'll come back just after the top 5 news and find out more about Az Samad at the lounge. 812 Live, Bernama Radio 24. Thank you very much, Evelyn He from No Black Tie. Don't forget, the show is happening at No Black Tie. What show are we talking about? Az Samad's solo guitar retrospective happening on the 27th of August. It starts at 9:30. Tickets are only priced at 30 ringgit. Support Malaysian music. If you need more information, call this number. If you do have a pen and paper now, it would be handy. 03-2142-3737. That's 03-2142-3737. Alternatively, you can log on to www.noblacktie.com.my for more information about Az Samad's upcoming solo guitar retrospective. Well, you're now back in Malaysia, and you're now in the thick of things, teaching music, performing, and from the time you left till you came back, you look at the scene in Malaysia. Is the scene growing at a healthy pace?
Absolutely. The way I see it is there's a lot more diversity. If, for example, if you go to an open mic and you watch the kind of performances that the younger generation of performers are playing, there's a lot of different kinds of music. And when I started off, a lot of my experiences were from open mics here, and it was like Peter Hassan Brown and Marquisa with Acoustic Jam, and later
Peter Hassan Brown, a name we haven't heard in a while there.
Yeah, I mean, such a pivotal figure in independent music. Him, and then I played Pete Teo's open mic when he was doing his open mic series, and there was a lot of performance, but I think people were still coming out. But now it's a different generation because you have YouTube's such a prevalent form of expression. You have a lot of the younger performers. They record 5, 10, 15 videos on YouTube, and then they come and do a live performance. Right. So
funny you should mention YouTube, because if you just go to YouTube and search fingerstyle guitar, you get a kaleidoscope of guitarists from around the world.
Absolutely
amazing. This guy runs something from America, if I'm not mistaken. He's very famous on YouTube, fingerstyle guitarist. And having said that, some years ago, I don't know where, if you were here or when you left for the States, they had a fingerstyle festival. Everyone dreamt this up, decided to start a fingerstyle festival, and people within tourism thought they'd run it, but a lot of people didn't have the know-how, and it was only once that we had it, but we had some great fingerstyle guitarists from around the world. Looking at festivals like this and looking at the mushrooming of festivals of Malaysia, do you think it's time we had a fingerstyle festival?
Absolutely, I think it is absolutely time, because I see a lot more people who are interested, and a lot of younger people who are playing really good guitar. It's just that there's no real exclusive avenue. For me, for example, as a fingerstyle guitarist, I'm sort of in the singer-songwriter circuit of musicians, and then also on the jazz circuit as well. So you sort of have to find where are the avenues to perform. But I think there are a lot more people now performing that playing music, writing original music, doing covers really well, playing really really good guitar. That it's a great time,
Right. And of course, you're teaching guitar classes, and when you teach guitar classes, you sort of, in a roundabout way, promote fingerstyle guitar playing. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm actually I just finished offering a course, a 3-month course that focuses on the style, percussive fingerstyle guitar. And I had one student, Lutfi. He comes from a classical guitar background. Another student, he comes from a rock guitar background. He plays in a band. Another one is a student of mine from Penang, Richard, and he plays rock, and he's played some jazz, and he wants to discover fingerstyle. So very diverse backgrounds. And it's interesting, when you offer this course, you realize there's a lot of interest, and just people after you learn what you can from YouTube. Sometimes people want to learn in person and try to get more insight. It's hard. Someone from YouTube can't really fix your posture if you're hurting your body.
The little nuances.
Yeah, the little nuances.
Which need to be fixed at the beginning of playing a fingerstyle guitar, and it has to be checked.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the music's is a challenging art form, and so you can go pretty far just learning from watching videos, but some things can save you a lot of time just by knowing how to do it right, and it's just just move your hand here instead or something.
I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the birth of fingerstyle within this country started with Paul Punadurai many years
Absolutely,
ago.
Man.
The late Paul Punadurai, and having said that, with all that he's done for fingerstyle playing, and a lot of other musicians that he's motivated, like this guy who plays within the circuit within KL, Mark Renesh, is very percussive, because all these boys watched him play and they just learnt of watching him play, and now you're the new generation of fingerstyle musicians, more technique involved in it, and having said that, is the interest picking up with fingerstyle guitar playing?
Absolutely. I think there's just a lot. I mean, you watch even in singer-songwriter guitar styles. There's a guy from UK, Newton Faulkner, who studied with Eric Roach as well, and he's in the pop charts, and he's playing really serious fingerstyle guitar, really amazing fingerstyle guitar, and he's singing as well. And I see, there's a newer generation here of musicians who play fingerstyle guitar, but they don't just want to do instrumental; they want to sing as well. They want to be like John Gom. They want to be like Newton Faulkner. And this is an interesting development, because it makes the singer-songwriters, the accompaniment, the guitar playing becomes a higher level, like world class as well, in addition to the singing and the songwriting. So it's really interesting.
Well, what we're going to do right now, I don't know, it's just a request from us to you that we do a little bit of a tutorial as to what fingerstyle guitar playing is. Maybe explain to us what fingerstyle guitar playing is, and then you can give us a little bit of, not entertainment, but an introduction to Az Samad playing live over Bernama Radio 24, which is a news channel.
Woo! That's news.
Yeah.
So probably move them.
Okay, I'll have to turn that on.
Okay.
Right, and see, my mic engineer isn't in the studios. I don't know where she is, Najia Sunny, when you need her. Well, she's coming in right now. Okay, so let's just try a couple of chords and see if it's... Okay, let's go for it.
So, what?
I'm not going to speak from here on end, yeah? You're just going to give us a little bit of a tutorial.
Okay, so this is my first live on air fingerstyle guitar tutorial. So probably in the beginning, the very beginning of like the whole fingerstyle thing, we have to talk about finger picking guitar. So you have, and this is a style that I don't play as much, but it's this kind of thing. So it comes from like a country tradition. You have people.
The bass strings being making the differences.
So you have like this bass thing happening, and then that kind of thing, and you also like Dust in the Wind, Kansas, that kind of thing. So that comes from like a country tradition, sort of a blues tradition. You have like. So you're trying to imitate, and so you have this bass thing happening. And then there's a melody happening. So this is like finger-picking guitar, finger-picking blues, Travis picking, some people call it, the Chet Atkins. This is where like people like Tommy Emmanuel, they come from this tradition. Now, when you talk about fingerstyle guitar, it's almost like such a blanket label for guitar playing, because there's no real style involved. It's more like an approach of playing. So it borrows from like classical guitar. For instance, you have, if you played something like this, like. Something like that. But with fingerstyle guitar, they're taking these textures, the textures that you hear in like piano music, classical piano music, you're hearing from classical guitar music. But the kinds of chords, the kind of emotions that you hear are these kind of shades. When you're talking about Alex de Grassi or Michael Hedges, you hear this kind. So the kind of chords and colors you hear are sort of in between pop and jazz. They're not quite jazz, but they're not really pop. So it's almost approaching like a film scoring kind of aesthetic. So it feels like you're painting a picture, even though it's instrumental music. But it's not as so-called like complicated like classical music. Some of the recent ones can be complicated, but it comes from that melding from those two things.
Right, but one of the styles that stand out within fingerstyle guitaring is the percussive playing.
Yeah.
You can sing and play alone, and that kind of gets people going, because it's just one guitar and a person
absolutely.
on vocals. So what's the percussive playing?
Okay.
What's the practice of percussive playing?
So extending from that, so you have that kind of extending from the finger picking to that interesting colors and chords, and then the percussive element came in, and it probably came first from like probably flamenco, as early as flamenco music or Spanish music. But one of the biggest guys who did it was Michael Hedges, and he really made it such a prevalent form of expression. And there's basically two sounds. Like when I tell my students, there's two sounds. There's like the kick drum sound, where you're hitting and you're hearing different parts of the guitar. And it's all these low sounds.
Right.
And then
I remember, when More Than Words came out, everyone was not playing the guitar but hitting the guitar for the intro.
Yeah, they're hitting that. They're hitting on the strings, which is that's actually the second sound. It's a kind of snare sound,
right?
A higher pitch. So all these kind of high-pitched sounds. Now, if you just have those two, it's enough to sound like a drum. Just. So that's sort of the basic of it. And then if you start playing chords, and then you start playing melodies or so that's sort of combining that becomes like percussive fingerstyle guitar. And one of the contributions of people like Tommy Emmanuel and Eric Roche is they started scratching the guitar as well. So you have this new sound like a shaker or like a guiro, or like a turntable.
So all that's done on an extension, a little extension, a piece of wood.
So usually on normal guitars, you would you would play through the finish of the guitar. So guitar builders wouldn't like this.
Right.
But on some of the modern players, like Thomas Leap, they would add a thin piece of wood where you would use double-sided tape on it, so you could scratch that and not destroy the finish of the guitar. So you have all these kinds of sounds that you can combine with all the things that you already do on guitar, and that just makes it sound more like a one-man band or a one-person orchestra, depending on how you view it.
So all you have to do is play, and keep on researching, and you'll come out with different things. I know there's no end to what you can come up with one sound, with one guitar.
Absolutely.
Because they say there's always a limit to things, when you're playing a guitar, it's just guitar playing. But if you're doing fingerstyle, it's a whole new world, isn't it?
It's absolutely a whole new world. I mean, there are certain limitations. For instance, we only have 10 fingers. Most people will have 10 fingers, and you have 2 hands, and there's only, if you have a 6-string guitar, you only have 6 notes that can sound at one time, in addition to the percussion sounds. But how you sort of juggle, I view it sort of like juggling all the sounds, is what do you want to make what do you want to make come out first? Do you want to make the percussion come out, or do you want to make the melody come out? So that kind of juggling is what makes the style very fun, because it's really uncharted. There's a lot of things happening, but there's a lot of younger players. There's and it's amazing arrangement. That Gautier song.
Right.
Yeah. So Yeah. So there's a Mike Dawes from UK did an amazing arrangement of it, and it's like mind blowing because he plays all the parts on one guitar, and it really sounds like it's all one. I mean, it sounds like he got every single part.
Right.
And things like that, just push the limit. There's Thomas Leap has an amazing arrangement of No Woman, No Cry for solo guitar with all the percussion and stuff, and has a version of Bobby McFerrin's Don't Worry, Be Happy. So it's all these things.
And here's the million-dollar question, with all the different music styles and with all the different instruments in the world, what was that one thing that inspired you to pick up the guitar and say, look, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
The story is this. One fine day, firstly, the disclaimer, I actually wanted a keyboard. That's the truth, because I was into R&B, I was into Boyz II Men, I was into All For One, or I was into R&B.
I really can't. I can't picture.
I was into TLC, man.
Really?
I was into TLC. The first album, Ooh on a TLC tip, Crisscross, all that. So I wanted a keyboard. In all honesty, when I was like 14, I wanted a keyboard because I think all the producers, all the cool guys had keyboards. If you had a keyboard, I figured that you could write, produce. Right? I didn't know produce. I just I could do all this music. But keyboards are expensive, man.
Right.
So when I asked my parents, 14 years old, and then they look at it, it's like, 800, 1,000 ringgit. Can't do that.
Right.
So I didn't get a keyboard. But later on, one fine day, I was on the phone talking to my sister's friend, and okay, that's a different story, but point was, on the phone call, I asked her, so what kind of music do you listen to? Typical question I would ask, and then she said Nirvana. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Oh, I've sort of heard about them. And about a week later, I went out, bought the cassette. I bought Nirvana, Nevermind.
Right.
And I listened to it, and I was like, man, this is so different than R&B, because R&B is very smooth. All the sounds are very sweet. And this was so raw and so intense.
And then it's great because you can sing off key and people will love you for it.
It's part of the style. Having the guitar out of tune a little bit is. I do a cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit. And if you play a little out of tune, it actually sounds better. For certain parts.
Right.
And then so Nirvana, and then Nirvana Unplugged was the album that made me like, wow, guitar is amazing. And then my grandma, of all people, she gave me 80 ringgit. And I went to Spectrum Shopping Mall in Ampang. I went to the departmental store and I bought myself a blue sunburst kapok.
You bought
plywood,
kapok.
100% plywood.
The one that I have to take down from the with the long stick.
They'll put it up on display above there because they don't want all the Sekolah Menengah kids to get it right. So I had a blue sunburst kapok. I was so happy, I have a guitar. I'm a guitarist. Soon I'll be a guitarist. I brought it home. I had no idea what to do with it.
Right.
So my friend at that time, he said, I'll tune the guitar for you. So, okay, just in case anyone who doesn't, for the benefit of anyone who doesn't play guitar, it will take about 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes if you're not really good to tune a guitar. He took the guitar for a whole day. So the next day, when I realized I think he probably tuned the guitar, I went to his house and got the guitar back, and that's sort of how I began.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to see how different generations picked up the guitar. Like for my generations, it was La Bamba. The guy. Yeah, that whole Richie Valens playing the acoustic guitar
it's
with
so
the
cool.
cigarette tucked into the headstock. Everyone was. It was such a cool thing, and everyone picked up the guitar. Then with the 150 chord book, which you can get in the bookstore. Yeah, so it's interesting to know how different generations picked up the guitar, and it was a nirvana for you. Having said that, you've moved miles and miles forward with great guitar playing. And for those of us who want to get an introduction to fingerstyle guitar, other than listening to your music, if I want to Google other names, what names do I Google? Other than Michael Hedges, we spoke about Michael Hedges.
Michael Hedges, Alex DeGrassi, Don Ross.
Don Ross.
Don Ross
the
is
guy.
amazing.
Yeah.
I was very lucky. I was at a guitar workshop in Austria, and I got to study with Don Ross for a week. It was mind blowing.
He's all over YouTube. That guy, Don Ross.
He's all over. He's such a such a big influence on the younger guys. Andy McKee. All the people on the Candy Rat label,
Right.
Don Ross is sort of like the main man for that thing.
Well, we've got a couple of minutes left. Before I let you go, you promised to play us a song.
Absolutely.
And stay with us because we're going to give you details as to how you can join Az Samad for his solo guitar retrospective happening at No Black Tie on the 27th of August at 9:30 p.m. We'll come back and give you details just after the news. In the meantime, what we want to do is to be entertained and educated by this great man, Az Samad, who's with us right here at the lounge, 812 Live, Bernama Radio 24. Over to you, Az.
Okay, so this is a song that I wrote when I was in California, and this one is called, it's one of the songs that you'll hear. It's called The Way You Say Our Names.
Fantastic. Az Samad with one of his original compositions. If you want to see more of that, don't forget to join him at his solo guitar retrospective happening on the 27th of August 2012 at No Black Tie. We'll be giving you more details just after the news at 10 on News 24 Extra at 10. As once again, it was a pleasure meeting you after so many years.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's great to see that your music is flourishing past that spirit around.
Thank you so much.
Stay with us. Coming up shortly, News 24 Extra, 812 Live, Bernama Radio 24. In the meantime, here's Az Samad.